Well, folks, we all know the story. 4 brave astronauts head off into space and come back forever changed.
This car?
Our city, our planet, owe a debt to these intrepid souls. And while we can never repay them, we can certainly celebrate them.
Thank you, Fantastic Four.
Thank you.
Thank you, Fantastic Four!
Please welcome the Fantastic Four.
Herbie, how's that sauce looking? Okay. That is fantastic.
You're late.
What do you mean?
What do you mean, what do I mean? You're late for dinner.
Yes, we are.
You late?
I just said that.
Are you pregnant?
What? You're gonna be the best mom in the world. And you are gonna be the best dad. Just kidding. You are out of your depth. We are gonna be the best uncles ever.
We can do this. Nothing is going to change.
Are you the protectors of this world?
Yes, we are.
Your planet is now marked for death.
It's my fault. I stretched the bounds of space. And they hurt.
Are we safe?
I don't know. There's not enough time.
I'm not giving up. We will face this together. We will fight it together. As a family. Has to be us.
We will protect you.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Marvel Trailer Fest. They dropped a brand new official Fantastic Four trailer. This is actually the footage they showed off at CinemaCon, just in full HD shiny glory. So we'll break it all down. There's a whole bunch of Easter eggs here. We get a much better look at the new version of Silver Surfer from their universe. It's going to be an alternate version. It's not Norrin Rad of their universe. And we get a much better look at Galactus walking through the city at the end of that trailer. For people asking why he's big enough to walk through the city, shouldn't he be even bigger than that? Shouldn't he be able to crush the planet? Galactus is able to change his relative size just depending on whoever he's attacking, whatever he's doing at any given time, so he could actually shrink himself so that he could actually walk through the streets like that. But there is a bunch of other stuff going on during this footage, like Reed Richards is finally stretching. People were asking about that in the last trailer, like why are they hiding Reed Richards stretching? So if you're brand new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to get all the videos, because it's just getting started. Now all Marvel needs to do is show us more comic book accurate live-action X-Men characters for Avengers Doomsday. Just starting at the beginning of the footage, we find out that Mark Gatiss is playing Ted Gilbert in their universe, and the way they're playing this, he's meant to be a version of Ed Sullivan in their universe, interviewing the family about their powers, and it's meant to be a parody of the Beatles going on the Ed Sullivan Show in real life in the 1960s. It seems like this is the way they're basically reintroducing them, doing their origin story by talking about it in past tense. Like, remember when this crazy thing happened, you got these awesome powers? They're basically saying that on their universe, their celebrities, like the Avengers, became celebrities inside the MCU, but there are no other superhero teams, like they are it, which is why when Galactus and Silver Surfer show up, the entire planet in the rest of the trailer is like, are you going to save us? This is the only chance that we have that you save us from this.
We will protect you. I don't know.
And you notice Reed Richards goes from this Ted Gilbert show where he says, oh, we will all protect you, don't worry, we've got everybody, to a little bit later when Silver Surfer shows up and talks about Galactus, and then you see Galactus stomping through the city, and he says, you know what, I'm not totally sure if we're going to be able to save you. The way that Kevin Feige and Matt Shakman, the director, talked about them, in their universe, they're also meant to be a bit like the Apollo astronauts, so they're already kind of this celebrity team of scientists that are working on space travel before they get their powers. Then even though they don't explain it during the trailer here, I'm assuming that they also get their powers through the cosmic rays, the way that they do in the comics. The way that Reed Richards explains it to Sue during the trailer, he says, I pushed the bounds of space, and they heard, like they basically detected what we were doing. In the comics, that's actually a huge Inhumans Easter egg. The original Coming of Galactus storyline is like a 3-part story back in the day, in the 1960s. They're basing some of the story here on that, but obviously it's a little bit different, like the way that all Marvel movies change the comics. But the way that original story picks up is that the Fantastic Four were dealing with the Inhumans in Black Bolt, and it was that conflict that gave off enough energy that Silver Surfer detected it and then alerted Galactus, like, hey, there's a whole bunch of energy at this planet. You should come consume it. Part of the idea is that Norrin Radd became the Silver Surfer in order to protect his planet from Galactus. Like, if you become my herald, I will not consume your planet. But in the movie, in their universe, they're using the Julia Garner version of Silver Surfer, who I think most people are referring to as Shala Bal. I don't know if it's going to be that version of Silver Surfer or how they're going to explain her, but I believe in her universe, she is not just a gender-bent version of Norrin Radd. Many heralds across the comics, she just happens to be one of them from the comics after Norrin Radd. I think the whole idea with using her instead of just like a traditional Norrin Radd Silver Surfer is that we're basically going to be traveling to the MCU before Avengers Doomsday, and then the Fantastic Four after Secret Wars will stay in the MCU, and in the MCU, we will meet the actual Norrin Radd Silver Surfer. So going forward, like we'll have Galactus and Norrin Radd in the MCU. They haven't fully explained it either, but I think we actually might still see this version of Galactus show up in the MCU eventually, but I don't know what their plans are for him during Secret Wars, for example, because I don't think that this movie will be the last time that we see Galactus, obviously. He's just way too big, metaphorical, and literal character for him to be a one-off thing.
I give you credit for just outright asking the question.
There's a brief clip of the Thing wearing regular clothes in the street, just being fanboyed on by all of these little kids, lifting cars, trying to impress people. It's a VW Beetle because we're the 1960s here. But also, I think the idea is that Reed Richards has also replaced a lot of energy in this universe, like dirty energy with clean energy. We actually see on their chart here, there's like a clean energy facility. So it's a bit like if Tony Stark or Howard Stark developed their arc reactor technology and it worked during the 1960s, and they just basically gave it to everyone as free energy. The only time we see a really clear example of that being used in automotive technology is the Fantastic car of their universe, which obviously looks different from the comic book version, but they said they wanted to look more like an actual 1960s era car that had just been transformed into the Fantastic car. I am sure after Secret Wars, when we started getting more Fantastic Four crossing over in present day with MCU characters going forward, they'll build a new version of the Fantastic car that will look a little bit more modernized. We get a little more context from that earlier footage of the teaser trailer with them blasting off, but it's actually them getting ready to go on the Ted Gilbert show. You see a bunch of people in the street just watching them through the store window. They play a bunch of clips of people in New York City on the street just thanking them for being amazing. Like this is playing as if like the Avengers went on Good Morning America in their universe. We get a longer clip of them having dinner together and that "You're late" scene. I did a video on that a couple days ago where basically Reed and Sue find out that she's pregnant with Franklin Richards. In the way they play it here, Johnny Storm just being kind of dumb about it, like, "You're late, what's going on here?" And Sue doesn't know what he's talking about, like, "Oh no, yeah, I'm late, but I'm also late." Ben being the smarter one to realize that her period is late is what she's talking about, and she's going to have a baby, who is Franklin Richards, one of the most powerful characters that Marvel has ever introduced. They had that great family moment where Johnny Storm is like, "We're going to be the best uncles ever," because the whole idea in this movie is they really wanted the actors that they cast to feel like an actual family. So even though that's the whole context of the movie, like it's literal text in the movie, they also wanted the actors together working on the movie to feel like a family behind the scenes.
I don't have friends. I got family.
The other very obvious comp to that in the previous Marvel movies are the original 6 Avengers actors. So if you haven't watched them, in real life, they actually all got tattoos together. They get together in real life all the time. Ever since Avengers Endgame, they still do it all the time. even though a lot of them all went their separate ways and they're coming back now for Avengers Doomsday and Secret Wars. Like, basically all the original Avengers will be back in some form or another. The ones who died playing other characters like Robert Downey Jr. coming back as Doctor Doom. Chris Evans kind of retired from the Marvel movies, but he's coming back as a different character too. Like, they're all coming back in slightly different ways, so they're all still part of the Marvel family, quote unquote. But part of the idea with the Fantastic Four, the reason why they're different, is because literally in the comics, they were an actual family. Marvel's first family, because they debuted before the X-Men, before the Avengers, before Iron Man, like before any of the Avengers characters debuted. So to make all the Vin Diesel family memes, they needed to actually be a family in the context of the movies, and obviously going forward after Avengers Secret Wars. Real question though, like real talk, is how Marvel is going to address Franklin Richards' powers and how old he's going to be during this movie and then during future movies like Doomsday, Secret Wars, because Sue Storm, after Franklin is born in this movie, probably just going to be a baby in this movie, but during Doomsday, she's going to be in that film. So is Franklin Richards also going to be in Avengers Doomsday? I wouldn't be surprised if he's in Avengers Secret Wars. We will see about that. But like all the Fantastic Four characters are in that movie, there's no way they're just going to like quote unquote get a sitter for Franklin Richards during Doomsday. He's got to be in that movie in some way too. It's one of those situations where like you just get the chair watch video, so they don't really tell you exactly what the story is going to be, even though it's kind of a version of Time Runs Out. So just post all your theories on that. Like, we will get more footage for Doomsday at the end of this year, so we'll have a better idea what's going on there. But I think they want to get this movie out before they really start promoting Doomsday so they can do more Franklin Richards stuff in general. Like, there's a lot of characters that would be spoilery if you knew what they were doing right now before Fantastic Four comes out. Primarily what happens at the end of this movie that causes them to need to leave their universe and come to the MCU. Which I think most of us are expecting based on the way this trailer goes, that Galactus does wind up actually destroying their planet and they are not able to save it. Because it's kind of the vibe of the trailer is that everybody expects them to be so amazing that there's nothing that's going to stop them, no problem that they can't solve. What happens when a problem as big as Galactus shows up that they cannot solve? R.I.P. their Earth. We get a little more footage of their actual kitchen here. Notice Johnny Storm picks up the Lucky Charms because Lucky Charms was an actual real cereal that debuted earlier in the 1960s, like it existed during the 1960s. I've already talked about that in my previous video, but notice that he's on the cover and it's actually a page from the real-life Marvel Comics that Jack Kirby drew in the Fantastic Four initial issues. There's also a box of Kix cereal on the counter too, for the exact same reason, because Kix cereal existed in real life in the 1960s during this period.
How's that sauce looking?
What?
During this scene where she's revealing Franklin Richards and her pregnancy to everybody, we also get a little voiceover from Herbie, although he's not speaking, it's just like this little whirring sound going, what? She says exactly the wrong thing that she's not supposed to say, nothing is going to change, boom, all of a sudden, everything changes when Silver Surfer shows up, and then Galactus. Then it seems like on some other night where they're having dinner together, you see the fire come from the sky, that winds up being Silver Surfer showing up, telling them of the coming of Galactus. Like, Galactus is coming, your world is marked for death. Zoom in and enhance over on the right, like you see all the ads here in the middle of the street on the buildings, the billboards. One of them says Westview Appliances, which just makes me feel like WandaVision references in the background here. But the way that Matt Shackman explained it, we're not going to see any crossover characters from the MCU, like no big 1960s versions of characters from the MCU, like no Howard Stark or anything like that. We get some of the same footage from the previous trailer, but this time we get like the complete version of the trailer where you see Johnny Storm flying into space and then his powers cut out, like his flames cut out because there's no oxygen, but he's able to grab the Silver Surfer's surfboard. When Reed says that he believes that this is all happening because he stretched the bounds of space, this might have something to do with his multiverse bridge that you see on the background of his chalkboard here. There was probably some experiment that he was performing when they initially got their powers, and that's why Galactus was alerted, Silver Surfer was alerted. When you see them in these spacesuits, these are meant to be after they've gotten their powers. Like, this is after Silver Surfer has shown up and been on national television or worldwide television, basically telling them that Galactus is going to show up soon. Reed looks super worried. He has no idea how he's going to solve this problem. We get a bunch more scenes of him actually trying to work through the problem of Galactus literally on his chalkboard. I was not a math whiz, but if you are a math whiz or you have a PhD in some math-related science, you can let me know if you think any of the equations here are actual real equations on his chalkboard. I would not be surprised if they are actually real equations, like Marvel wanted to be that accurate. When he says there's not enough time, I think part of the idea is that his multiverse bridge will allow them to escape to the MCU, and that will be like their measure of last resort. Like, we told the world that we could save them, but we can't. There's nothing we can do, and he wants to protect his family. So, like, at the very end of the film, when the world is being destroyed, he basically pulls them into his multiverse bridge, and that's how they survive into Avengers Doomsday. My early theory is that they're going to do this to help motivate them during the movie, and that's why they'll want to save the MCU from Robert Downey Jr.'s Doctor Doom and the incursions, all that stuff, just because they were not able to save their original universe. This seems like it's meant to be Galactus actually consuming the planet itself, so R.I.P. Earth. Notice you see the cloud stretching over the actual planet. This is also probably a little bit of an Easter egg for both the comics and the original Chris Evans era Fantastic Four movies. Floaty Cloud Galactus isn't completely gone, even though you do see him walking through the streets. Part of the idea is that Galactus naturally exists in this cloud-like state. He just appears to people, like people view him however they're able to perceive him because he's so powerful. So when he shows up, that's why most people in the comics perceive him as this giant man in a costume, like a face in a costume, when in reality his actual form is a little bit more like this. But I'm assuming that this is happening at the very, very end of the movie before they basically hightail it to the MCU through the multiverse. We get the shot of him actually coming down to the planet to walk through New York City. This is him basically shrinking down into this form. You see them in the streets looking up at this giant form. It's basically them looking at Galactus. We also get a much better look at the Fantastic Car here too. This seems like Silver Surfer rising up inside Galactus. Like, look at all this technology behind her and this molten lava going on here. This might be inside Galactus's body, or like wherever Galactus is coming from before he comes to planet Earth. I'm assuming this scene is Sue Storm inside their spaceship, or it looks like she's inside their spaceship. There's a couple Easter eggs here in the streets when you see all these explosions in the ads. There's the Lone Nomad, which I believe is meant to be an Easter egg for the Lone Ranger in real life. Hover Grill is probably based on Reed Richards' technology that he's developed. There's a movie that's playing here called Sub-Zero Intel. My assumption is that's meant to be a spin on the Cold War. Like the Cold War was probably averted in their universe. There's ads for Canada Dry and 7-Up, which are real-life drinks. There's even a Little Caesars pizza ad, which is a real-life pizza that did exist during this period. We get a bunch more scenes of Silver Surfer flying around on her board. Ben Grimm pulling the chain of the ship through the harbor here feels very Superman-like. Like this is literally a shot during Batman v Superman. That it seems like they're taking off from the Ted Gilbert show when Galactus actually does show up. Not totally sure why Ben Grimm is trying to take these supports down. Maybe he's just trying to create a barricade in the streets here. Then you can only see a little bit of him, but Reed Richards stretching here is actually Galactus crushing this building. You can see a little bit of purple here on the sides, like this is like Galactus's hand crushing this building. Sue Storm seems like she's using her powers to try and stop Galactus here. Would not work because Galactus is so powerful. Then they end the trailer with that little tag scene of Galactus literally stomping through the streets of their version of New York City. I'm actually expecting for them to wait for one of the final trailers to actually show his face, like the front of Galactus, like full frontal Galactus. The way that Matt Shackman explained it is they did a combination of motion capture and putting him in an actual suit. So we will see what that actually translates to on screen. I couldn't spot any Robert Downey Jr. Doctor Doom references in the trailer, but he is supposed to show up at some point at the very end of the movie or in the post-credit scene. But there is a bunch of stuff going on during this trailer, so if there's any Easter eggs or references you spotted that I didn't talk about in the video, just write them below in the comments. And I was already working on a Thunderbolts trailer video when this posted, so I'll try to get that up later tonight or early tomorrow morning. We also might be getting the Mandalorian and Grogu trailer or some footage from that on Friday. If we do, of course, I will do all the videos for that as well. Be sure to enable alerts for my channel so you don't miss any of that. Everybody click here for that Thunderbolts trailer video, and click here for my Mandalorian and Grogu trailer video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.